Welcome back, and today we're going to tackle a all-encompassing deep dive into Marvel's latest special presentation, and that is The Punisher: One Last Kill. And before we get started, here's my potentially highly controversial hook for today. You have all these critics out here that are whining, in my opinion, about The Punisher special presentation being too grim or it lacked thematic depth. But I'm here to tell you that they are missing the point entirely. And you don't turn into a Punisher project to sit back and watch a nuanced debate about the socio-economic impacts of street crime. No, what you do is you tune in to watch Jon Bernthal play the Punisher and turn a coffee pot into a weapon. That's what you're tuning into the Punisher for. And on that front, in my opinion, this was a masterpiece. Not a perfect masterpiece, but I thought it was really good. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into it and let's talk about the plot, or I guess we could call it Marvel's loose excuse to put together a 45-minute episode of extreme blunt force trauma. So we basically open with Danzig's mother blaring, and we see Frank, who is there doing 40 pull-ups, and he's screaming at nothing. And I guess for him is probably a cheaper form of therapy, getting drunk, doing pull-ups, and just roaring into the camera, or just roaring in general. So we have Frank, who is currently wandering around looking like a lumberjack who lost his favorite axe. And we learn via the news broadcast that Frank has basically systematically executed the Gnucci family. I guess we could call it nature is healing. But aside from the fact that we have these punk ass street thugs who beat up a homeless guy and throw his dog in front of a moving bus or a dump truck. And, RIP to that dog, because, he definitely deserved better. I say all that to say that Frank is spiraling. He's seeing all of the ghosts of his old army buddies, his dead family, asking them to read one batch, two batch bedtime story. And then you have Curtis over here haunting them, and he's basically an ultra critical life coach. And with all of that going on, Frank basically decides that he's done. He locked his guns up, he put everything away, and he dons a hoodie, and he basically embraces his new superhero persona, which is the Ignorer, because we have gunshots going off and all of this crime and chaos that's happening in New York City, and Frank is just wandering through and meandering around like nothing is going on, at least not to him. But then we bring to the stage Ma Gnucci, and she rolls up to Frank and she tells him this story about how they're the same, and basically she makes that a quick story and lets him know that, yeah, you killed my entire family and I put a damn bounty on your head, and you have to exactly 6:47 p.m. because that's the time that you killed my favorite son. So that's the time that you're going to have to, I guess, prepare yourself, because everybody is going to be hunting for you because everybody works for me. Now, what follows that is about 20 to 25 minutes of the raid on steroids. We have Frank, who is armed with absolutely nothing, and he's defending himself. He's hitting people with their own knives, baseball bats. He gets a shotgun upgrade at some point. And a long story short, he clears the entire damn building. Balcony to balcony, he clears the entire building, one-man army style. Then at the climax of all of that, after he crashes down to the street, he is met with his fork in the road, and this turns out to be what I think shapes his character for what we're going to see probably going into Spider-Man Brand New Day. And it's when he basically has a choice to make between chasing down Ma Gnucci, because he could have easily got her, or saving this little girl and her dad, I think the deli or whatever shop he had, a coffee shop, but to save them or go chase down Ma Gnucci. And ultimately, Frank chooses to save the girl and her family, and he kills this big tattoo guy amongst other people inside there, but he specifically kills this tattoo guy with a pencil or pen, I think it was, and he hits him in every trigger artery point there is, and he bleeds out and coughs up his own blood. It was very, very beautiful, and I enjoyed watching it. And if that makes me sound a little bit crazy, I apologize for that, but if you watch the Punisher special, then I'm sure you knew what you were going to get. After he gets done brutalizing everybody in this establishment, the little girl brings him this paper cardboard flower. And he's very, very touched by this. And he later goes to his daughter's grave and lets her know that, he met somebody that reminded him of her. And it seems as though he gets a little bit of hope back. And it seems like in this moment, his conscience is clear and he chooses to go forward and continue on with his life. And while he is still the Punisher, I don't think he's just going to go around just serial killing street thugs and gang members and mobsters anymore. I think he's going to actually become sort of a protector, kind of how we saw at the end of the episode when somebody was trying to beat up the homeless man or do something to him again. And, he let him know that, hey, this guy took more from me than my hat. So, Frank, the Punisher, with his classic vest on at this point, he pulls his gun up and shoots into the camera, and we get our one last kill. And that's basically that. 50 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes of just straight brutality. No mid-credit scene, no ending credit scene, so we don't know how exactly he's going to tie into the Spider-Man movie outside of his personality change, where it seems like he's going to go into being more of a protector for the neighborhood or something along those lines. So now let's transition into the breakdown and let's talk about some of those things that we picked up on in the episode. And we'll start with the Gnucci family. So if you read the Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon comics, the Punisher run that they did, then you know all about the Gnucci family. And the one little nugget that I picked up on was that Ma Gnucci actually survives this story. So that tells me that she will pop up in some storyline probably again at some point, because the one thing that I picked up on from that storyline when I scanned through it or whatnot was she got fed to a polar bear, I believe it was, and I would love to see that play out on live action. That would just be the most Punisher thing to do, to feed a mob boss to a polar bear. I just think it would be really fun to see. And then we got our brief hallucination of Karen Page, and that basically confirmed why Frank probably wasn't in Daredevil season 2, because, he's dealing with a whole lot in his head right now. Maybe he doesn't have time right now in his mind to go deal with all the stuff that's going on in Hell's Kitchen and with Mayor Fisk and the Freeport and all of that stuff. So, if you saw what I saw, he was a little traumatized and he had a lot going on, especially at the beginning of the episode. So I think that Daredevil situation would have only made him worse. And that brings me to the biggest piece that everybody, I'm sure, wants to know about in the Brand New Day connection. And I really think that is his persona change and how he's going to be more of a protector. Because like I said earlier, we saw that he did not kill Ma Gnucci and that he chose to go save this little girl. So I think that directly sets up his role for Spider-Man Brand New Day from the things that I've heard and some of the leaks and everything that I've heard people talk about. This sounds kind of how he will task himself to, I guess, probably protect Sadie Sink's character, who I think everybody's saying is Jean Grey. But a Jean Grey who's at the beginning stages of her power, so she's not the Phoenix Jean Grey just yet. She's, little Jean Grey who's still figuring everything out potentially. So like I said earlier, some of the critics said that this was endless killing and sulking, and they claimed it was too grim or lacked a plot, and I just completely disagree with everybody. Now, I will say the story is simple, sure, but does it need to be this hyper-political story for a Punisher story? I think the fact that this story was stripped down to its bare bones and we knew exactly what was going on is what made it good. I don't think you needed for this show some Avengers level multiverse crisis. I think having a localized survival thriller was very good and probably the best direction to go. And was the pacing off? Maybe a little bit, but to have a full 20 to 25 minutes of nonstop action, gore, blood, guts, guns, weapons, anything you could think of, to have a full straight 20 to 25 minutes of that made up for any slow moments this episode may have had. But honestly, if you really think about it and the lack of a plot, the story kind of mimics Frank's mental state. It's the slow, agonizing crawl that eventually violently explodes without any goddamn warning. And like I said, Jon Bernthal, especially with this character, does not miss. His acting was top tier in this show. Like, he literally barely speaks in this show, but I think that all of the actions and emotions and seeing the trauma that he was dealing with was all that we needed. He didn't have to say a goddamn word. Like, sure, a lot of his communication was through grunts, screams, and sighs. In my opinion, he fully commits to the emotional and physical toll that the Frank Castle character has taken on at this point in time. And to touch on one last thing is the kills. I absolutely love the kills. The kills were great. And for a Disney Plus show, and for Disney in general to allow this show to be made, thank you, Disney. I really appreciate it, because this was really, really good to watch. Like, the kills were visceral, they were creative, and this is the type of thing you need when you have a Punisher story. It's not going to be pretty, and we're not going to have all these scenes where, we're going to try to be political and solve a problem by being nonviolent. That's not the Punisher. This is last resort. This is somebody that's out to, in this case, settle a score, or maybe in the future it'll be to protect people, but he's still going to do it in a Punisher fashion. So with that, I rated this a 4.5 out of 5 skulls. We're going to call them skulls for this because what else would they be when you're talking about the Punisher? And all right, that's really about it for me. That's where I'm going to wrap up, but the conversation doesn't have to stop there. Please jump down those comments and let me know what you guys thought about the Punisher special presentation. Was Frank justified in his 6:47 p.m. rampage, or is he a highly effective serial killer that's hiding behind trauma? Let me know what you guys think about that down in the comments. Thank you all for coming. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out, and I will see you in the next